Welcome to the She's Just Not That Into You podcast, where we're redefining female experiences and prioritizing female perspectives. I'm Rianne.
And I'm Ji-yoon. We are two friends with global background, sharing our multicultural experiences and discussing everything that sparks our passion.
Every week, we have honest, intimate conversations that we hope will inspire and empower not only each other, but women everywhere. Hey everyone, welcome back to the She's Just Not That Into You podcast. I'm your host, Rianne.
I'm Ji-yoon.
And today we're going to be talking about 10 things that we wish we knew when we were 21. So basically, we're just kind of summarizing all the life lessons that we learned through our 20s.
Yeah.
And for context, I'm 30 now and going to be 31 soon.
Really soon?
Yeah, next month.
In a month?
Yeah.
And I literally just turned 34 in January. Yeah, we thought it's a pretty nice timing for us to cover this topic since we are now both in our 30s now.
Yeah, so June, do you want to start with number one?
The first thing I wish I knew when I was 21 is invest in your experiences. I'm not talking about buying some plane tickets to like Bali or something.
Why is it always Bali?
It's always Bali. I mean, if it's something that you want, go for it. You're 21. But what I'm really saying is that say yes to life in general. Like start choosing to experience as much as you can because those experiences will help you navigate your life. Like in your 20s, I feel like life is pretty comfortable when it comes to like making friends and, you know, being surrounded by people who are mostly just like you, like around similar age, you know, being with people with similar values or even with similar hobbies and similar backgrounds and everything. Like it's really easy to stay in that bubble because it feels really safe in your 20s. But as you get older, like now that I'm looking back after it's been like almost 10 years after I graduated from college, life really doesn't stay that simple. Like you are gonna start finding yourself in situation where you meet people who are literally the opposite, like different personalities, different backgrounds, and so on and so forth. Like you are not gonna click with them like 100%. Like there are gonna be people who are gonna annoy you, and there are gonna be people who are gonna be frustrating, and they're gonna test your patience sometime. And you're also gonna have colleagues that you want to punch in the face as well, and and you will have to work with them. You will have to work with people who think completely like differently from you. But the thing is, like your experiences that you have in your 20s will really prepare you to handle that kind of situation, because I've like seen so many times in my life that people who are like street smart, who have all these kinds of different experiences, they can navigate their life and the challenges way better than those who have just better grades.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, what kind of experiences do you recommend people invest in?
I'm just talking literally almost anything and everything. Like, because you don't really know what experience you're going to be interested in and what experience that you are going to like.
Yeah.
Because you don't really like get to know yourself in your early 20s because you don't really have that many experiences. So just like try new things, like join that random club on campus that sounds really interesting to you. Maybe go on that date that's totally out of your comfort zone, or just say, I don't know, yes to this random road trip with your friends, or just, you know, go volunteering, or maybe just go clubbing, maybe just go to a house party. Because without those experiences, you don't know who you are, and you don't know what you like, and you don't know what you don't like. So to know all these kinds of stuff, you need those experiences and all the ups and downs through these experiences, and they're gonna become the tools that you collect for your life that's gonna help you navigate your life. So yeah, I think you really need to invest in your experiences rather than just literally saving up all the money for the future. It's not just about like crossing off your bucket list, it's about finding yourself. So yeah, just get out there and experience something new, and you're gonna thank me later.
Yeah,
So
thank you for
yeah,
sharing.
yeah, that was my first one.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next one, which is mine, which is don't compare yourself to others or worry about social expectations or pressure.
Mm,
I think this is really important because it's a really big change when you go from, being a teenager or being a university student. And when you're at school and university, I feel like you're always kind of compared with your classmates or your peers. And there's like a system that's set up to measure whether you're successful or not,
yeah.
because there's all these exams that you have to pass and everyone's doing the same exams, and obviously like everyone's kind of in a similar situation and everyone's had the same teachers, so obviously it just naturally comes about that everyone gets compared with each other. And you can see what your ranking was in the class for a certain exam. And yeah, and I think that kind of mindset is really unhealthy, but it's just kind of how we're trained by the education system to think.
Right.
And continuing to think in that way after you leave university and leave that kind of environment and go out into the adult world is basically a recipe for unhappiness,
Mm,
because it's not really possible to compare yourself to anyone when you're like a member of society, because
right.
everyone's experiences and backgrounds are so different. And unlike when in education, there isn't any kind of set system to measure success.
Mm,
And I mean, in our society, there are a lot of people who measure success by certain metrics, like, your salary, your bank account, what kind of car you drive, whether you're married or not, how many kids you have, and stuff like that, right?
mm,
But none of them are actually like real metrics of success.
mm,
And you just kind of have to
yeah.
try to just live your life in a way that is right for you and
Mm,
not worry about whether you're getting it right or not, because
definitely.
there is no way of getting it right or
Mm.
wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, have your own metrics of success.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or like happiness is the
Yeah.
best measure of success, which is
Mm.
something we're not really taught about at school or in the education system, right? Like,
Right.
then nobody cares how happy a student is. It's all about how well you did in the exam. And
Mm.
yeah, just it's everything like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, thank you for your second advice. Our third one would be read more books. I know
Mm-hmm.
this is too cliche, but I would definitely say read more books. So I really think books are really magical. Like, I'm not really being dramatic, but like, if you actually stop to think about it, like, someone spends the entire life learning about all these lessons, going through like pain, success, like failure, just everything, self discovery, just you name it. And they sit down and pour all that wisdom into a book. And in a few hours, you can make all of them just yours. It's like getting access to the inner workings and inner thoughts and inner experiences of someone who's been going through everything. So they're practically just giving you just this amazing tips on how to navigate your life, so you can basically like live 1,000 lives and have 1,000,000 perspectives and everything without actually having to live thousands of years. So books really help us experience things without having to experience them in person. You're going to get to see the world vicariously through other people's eyes, whether it's a philosopher or a historical figure or a celebrity or just a person who's completely different from you, or just even a fictional like a character, like a protagonist from a novel that you like. These experiences that you read through the books, they're gonna expand your perspective. So they're gonna like just show you and teach you how people think, how people feel, how people act. And when you face similar situations in your own life, you're not gonna be blindsided because you've already seen it in the books that you read and experienced that through the books that you've read. So it's going to really help you go through that kind of situations that you meet in your life. So that's why I think we need to read more and more books, especially in your 20s when you need all the tools and frameworks to process your life. You might have a lot of experiences, but without the right tools and frameworks to process it, to digest it, it's really hard to make sense of the experiences that you have sometimes. So I think by reading books, you can actually have those tools. Like they teach you how to think critically, like they teach you how to analyze situations that you face in your life and how to understand people around you. And it's gonna help you put your life into perspective and give you all the life lessons that you need in your own life.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. Yeah, I completely agree. Books are really important.
Yeah.
And yeah, I read so many books in my 20s that really changed the way I think about life as well.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, so my next point, number 4, is don't get stuck to a timeline. It's never too late to do something and you're never too old.
So true.
I mean, it's really crazy because now that I'm in my 30s, looking back at, being 21 or being in my early 20s or mid 20s or even late 20s, like when I see people who are that age, it seems so young and it seems
Right.
like they have their whole life ahead of them. But then I
Mm.
remember when I was that age,
Yeah,
I
I
was
know.
always I was always like, oh my God, I'm too old to start
I
this.
know. So true.
Yeah, so it's just so crazy to think about that now. So, but then it's really weird because now that I'm in my 30s, I don't feel that way anymore,
Oh,
even though I'm
really?
actually technically older.
You're like the oldest in your life.
Yeah,
You're at
yeah,
the
yeah.
oldest point in your life.
Yeah, even though I'm older now, I
Yeah.
now don't feel like it's too late to start something or that I'm too old.
Interesting. Yeah. Maybe it's because you've learned this lesson yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, so for example, just a few things that I personally had experiences with. So I think when I was 27, I broke up with my long term boyfriend who I had been dating for 9 years. So since I was 18. And at the time, it felt like a really big deal, and I felt like I was too old to end the relationship. Even when I was like 25, I was like, oh, it's too old to be single again. Which is so crazy because now I'm like nearly 31 and I don't feel like I'm too old to be single.
Right. And if you actually look around, like there's just so many people who are single and over, I don't know, like almost 40 or something.
Yeah, in Japan, there are. In the UK, there aren't really.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, yeah, and the other major life change I went through in my late 20s was that I decided to move to Japan after
Mm.
having lived in the UK my whole life. And then at the time when I was making that decision about whether I should move away from the UK and move to Japan, a lot of the time I was thinking, oh, I'm too old to make such a big move, such a big life change. Like, oh, it's too late now. I just need to like stay in this current life situation I'm in, even though I'm not happy with it because I'm too old. And yeah, it's just so crazy that I thought like that.
Mm.
Um,
Right.
this was when I was in my mid 20s. But now that I'm nearly 31, I now don't feel like I'm too old to make another big life change or another big move or something if I
Mm.
wanted to. Even though I'm actually older than I was when
Yeah.
I was 25.
Mm.
And 25 seems so young
So
now.
young. So young.
But
I could
when I
literally
was
do anything if I could go back in time and be 25 again.
yeah, but you're still young now.
I just want to have more time in my life. Yeah.
Okay. Another thing, I guess, maybe if someone else who's listening is struggling with this, they can listen to our other podcast episode about how to make friends as an adult. But yeah, the other thing was I kind of felt like I was too old to make new friends or meet new people. This is like when I was like in my early 20s, I thought like
Mm.
this. But then
Right.
like I met Jiyun when I was 27.
Yeah. By the time I was already like 30.
Yeah,
So I met
exactly.
you in my 30s.
Yeah, exactly. We met, in our late 20s or
Right.
30s. And, it's just so crazy because, like, we connected so much and
Yeah.
felt like we had known each other forever, right?
Yeah, it's really hard to imagine my life before, like without you.
I
You know
know.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how have I lived like without like having known you entire time? It was so crazy to think about.
Yeah, that is so crazy. And then, like, that happened when I already thought it was too late to meet new people or make new friends, right?
Yeah, yeah, so crazy.
Yeah, that was really crazy. I mean, like, so you're never too old for anything, really. And I think Mel Robbins wrote a book about friendship as an adult, and she was saying, like, the best friends that you're going to meet in your lives are still, like, waiting for you. You
Mm,
just have to make the move
yeah,
to, like, put yourself out there and meet new
so true.
people, and you're never too old for anything.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Which I feel like our culture kind of makes us, especially I guess as women, makes us feel like we're too old to do stuff because there's the whole thing about the biological clock. And if you want to have kids, then,
Oh my, yeah.
you should have kids by the time you're like 27. Otherwise, you're going to be infertile.
Yeah.
And then there's also like the whole thing of like the Forbes 30 under 30, or
Mm.
like, I don't know, like 28 under
I really don't
28, or
like
like,
that for on the 30 under 30.
yeah, like I'm already too old to make the 30 under 30
I
list, and I feel
know.
like
This
I
is so
failed.
crazy. Like, I get the whole point, but like, why don't you just make it something like something that's more meaningful? Because it really forces people to think that like being successful early in your life is the most important. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, it's just never too late to start anything, or, just to be anyone or anything you want, or, reinvent
Yeah.
yourself, or, yeah, change anything.
Yeah. They should
Yeah.
have something like 60 over 60.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so do you want to move on to your
Yeah,
next point?
sure. My next point is that you can't control other people. This is something that I always tell Rihanna as an older sister. I always tell her that, oh my god, you can't control other people. Like, so yeah, you cannot control other people. I really hope more people realize this earlier in their lives. I mean, I understand how frustrating that can be, like, because we all have those moments where someone does really annoying things, or something that's so rude, or something that's really obnoxious, and we start thinking that, oh my god, why is she like that, why is he so annoying, or why don't they just listen to us, something like that. I mean, I know how it feels, like how annoying it could be, but like it's just a waste of time. Like, at the end of the day, it just didn't change a thing. Like, it just, all it did just was draining my own energy. So, what really made me at peace was just accepting the people are just who they are, and I cannot force them to act the way I want. So, the only thing that I could do was just set boundaries and decide how I'm going to react to them. So, I just want more people to realize that you just can't control other people. Like, they are them, and they are just living their own lives, and you are living yours, and all you can do is just change your attitude and change how you think about them and how you react to them. So there's this quote that I really love that I found like years ago, and I try to remind myself of this quote whenever I start trying to control other people. So I just wanted to share this quote with the listeners here as well. It goes, I do my thing and you do your thing. I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations, and you're not in this world to live up to mine. If by chance we find each other, it's beautiful. If not, it can't be helped. I really like this quote because I don't know the whole history behind it, but I heard that this is one of the prayers that people do to ensure coexistence and independence. And I think this quote perfectly summarizes how we can only control ourselves and have power over ourselves only, not other people around us.
Okay, so it's really interesting because So, was there a time in your life when you used to be like me?
No,
Oh,
actually.
okay. Okay, so why was this something that you say that you learned in your 20s?
I wasn't like you. I think there is just a different level of controlling. But like what I mean by controlling is just the time whenever we have that kind of anger like coming from the bottom in our mind, like whenever we see people like acting really annoying or just acting the way we don't understand,
Okay.
and sometimes we try to like control them and just want to make them just behave the way we want them. I mean I used to have those moments in my life in my 20s, but then I just realized that it's really unhealthy, and the only thing it did to me was just really draining my own energy, and it really wasted my time and energy as well. So if someone like behaves in a way that I don't understand, I usually just think that, oh, like maybe something happens. Like maybe something happens in their life. So there must be a reason why he's like that. There must be a reason why she's like that. This is I think easy like a trick to have.
Yeah.
Like don't ask why. Like why is she like that? Why is he like that? But just accept that there might be a reason.
Yeah,
Mm.
okay.
Rian, what's your next point?
Yeah, so my next point is maybe similar to this whole thing of control, but you shouldn't rely on anything else other than yourself to give you a sense of purpose or meaning in your life, or
Mm.
a sense of timeline or a goal to look forward to. So, don't rely on a guy or girl or your family or your friends or your work or your career or just anything to give you a sense of meaning in your life,
So true.
because it's something that you can only give to yourself.
Mm.
I feel like it's also something that women are especially prone to doing. So, in the podcast episode we recorded recently with our guest, Shannon, the tattooist, she was saying about how women are often giving pieces of themselves to other people and not doing anything for themselves.
Mm.
I think this is part of it as well. Like, the reason why you're giving pieces of yourself to these other people around you is because you're hoping that that will give your life a purpose and a meaning.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, it doesn't.
Right.
And the only way you can have purpose and meaning in your life is when you do stuff for yourself.
Right.
And I think it's just really hard to live that way because as a society, we condition women to think that we have to live for other people
Mm.
and that our worth is based on what we do for other people. A lot of the time, like, mothers are judged on how much they've done for their kids and how many sacrifices they've made for their kids, and women's value is rarely ever seen in terms of
Mm.
how much she's done for herself.
Right. Right.
But the only way you can actually really add value to your life is to do stuff for yourself and
Mm.
to not do stuff for other people. And related to this, I would also say that I wish I had known at 21 about how I shouldn't care about what other people think of me, whether it's like people close to me or just generally. Like, again, it's the whole thing about the societal expectations, and you don't have to live your life in a way that is going to satisfy other people.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that you decide to do in your life, especially the ones that are good for you, probably
Mm.
won't satisfy other people,
Yeah.
because a lot of the time people around you feel uncomfortable when they see you living your best life because
Right. And
they
they're
might
gonna
be
get
jealous.
jealous.
Yeah, they might be
Yeah.
jealous that they're not living their
Mm.
best life, right? Which is
Right.
their
Right.
problem.
Yeah.
Um, so not everyone is going to be supportive about everything you decide to do in your life, and that's
Mm.
fine.
Mm.
As long as you are supportive of what you're doing in your life, then that's all that matters.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially, like, when we're teenagers and when we're at school and university, we're never taught to do stuff for ourselves or to make
Mm.
ourselves happy. It's
Yeah.
all about like how what grade you get, how you're seen by other people, by other people's metrics of success and everything like
Mm.
that, right?
Right. Right.
And kind of related to this, I would say also don't look to future goals as a way to make yourself happy as well. So I feel like this is another bad thing that we're kind of subconsciously programmed to think when we're in the education system, which is
Mm-hmm.
that we're always kind of taught to look ahead to the future and never enjoy the present, because there's always like another exam you have to be working for, or like another stage in your education that you need to do. Like you can never really like enjoy where you are now, because you always having to work for something else, and then you always think like, oh, I'm going to be happy when I get that grade. But then when you
Yeah.
get the grade, you're never actually happy,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
then you're looking for the next grade you have to get. And
Mm.
it's just like you're never really taught to enjoy the present moment. And
Yeah, so true.
I feel like a lot of people live their life like that after they become an adult and graduate university and everything as well, because there's always like, oh, I'm gonna be happy when I get that promotion. I'm gonna be happy when I lose weight. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be happy when I get a salary
Right.
increase. I'm gonna be happy when I find a boyfriend. I'm gonna be happy when I get
Right.
engaged. And like, it's just never ends.
Never end. Or only if I have that car, or only if I have that house.
Exactly. And then, like, that just goes back to what I said about how you shouldn't rely on other things to make you happy or give your life a sense of meaning or purpose or a goal to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So true.
Okay. What's your next point?
Yeah, I think my next point is also a little related to what you've just shared. So my next point is do your best with what's right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of younger people, they think too far ahead. Like, I know probably people in their 20s, they are worried about 8,000 different kinds of things right now. Like, I know that they are gonna have all these, crazy question marks in their head and everything. Like, maybe they are, I don't know, thinking about, oh, like, what should I do after I graduate from college, or what's coming next semester, or how can I pay like my next bills and stuff like that. But you're thinking too far ahead. Like you're stuck in your head, like running those worst case scenarios about everything. But you've got to like pull yourself out of the kind of vicious cycle and just focus on what's really happening right now in front of you. Because like looking back right now, like I realized that I just have so many different questions and worries constantly, going around in my mind. Like it's just endless like vicious cycle. Because I think I was just always really over planning about the future. Not like really planning. I didn't really keep those plans, but like I always
ENFP.
yeah, ENFP. But I was always just thinking about like what I should do next. Like, oh my god, what I'm gonna do in my future. Like what I want to do in my life. Like what if I do this? What if I do that? Just all these different kinds of things that are not happening right now. Yeah. So like looking back, I'm just like, oh my god, why didn't I just focus on my GPA? Like instead of just stressing about the things that didn't happen to me, like things that I couldn't even control, like things that didn't happen, things that didn't come. Like it's not that I was obsessed with like what grades I wanted to get or just being better at school or something, but it's just because focus on school and focus on grades and focus on exams and focus on what was happening at that time, those final papers and those exams, and just reading books or even just hanging out with the friends that I met in college. These were just literally the thing that I had full control over at that time. Like it was the task and it was the thing right in front of me at that time, and that was my responsibility and that was my opportunity to actually make progress in my life and make some good experiences and make some good memories. Like, but I was just too busy like thinking about all these different kinds of things that didn't happen, just all the what ifs in my head. Like, if you actually stop to think about how much you miss when you're living too far ahead, it's crazy if you actually stop to think about that, how much you miss what's happening right now around you. So don't get so caught up in just worrying about the things that might happen, that you don't fully engage with what's happening like right now. Because when you get older, when you are in your 30s and when you look back later, you're not going to remember all the hours you spent thinking about all these different kinds of things that never even happened, that never even came to pass. But you're going to remember the moments that actually happened in your life. Just focus on what's happening right now and do your best with what's happening right now. I think that's the best you can do.
Yeah, that's really good advice. That's something that I still need to work on right now as well.
Such a younger sister.
Oh my god.
It's still something that I need to work on more as well. I think it's never ending homework, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Can you share
Uh
your next point?
yeah, so my next point is to really study yourself and learn to understand yourself, because self-knowledge is power.
Mm,
And I'd say, one good way of doing this is, doing personality tests like the
mm.
Myers-Briggs personality test or
Yeah.
MBTI, and really like spend a lot of time studying your personality type. You can even look at memes online. There are a lot of forums on Reddit and Quora for people who really want to geek out on it as well. And I guess also astrology is another thing that you can get into.
Mm.
And yeah, there's also a lot of other personality tests as well. Like there's the Big Five personality
Yeah.
test. There's also the Colors personality test. And
Mm.
just like, I really wish that I had like gone really deeply into all those things at an
Mm.
earlier stage in my life, because I only
Right,
got
right.
into MBTI when I met June.
Yeah, I still remember how you were like so into it when you first actually took the test and got the results and you were so shocked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't there was just so many things that I didn't
Yeah.
know about
Suddenly
myself.
everything made sense.
Yeah, suddenly everything made sense. But it was like relatively late. It was like I was like in my late 20s when I took it for
Mm.
the first time, and then
Right.
now I just like really see my life and everything in such a different way, and like even like the way I work with other people, and
Mm.
my relationships with other people and friendships and family relationships and different relationship dynamics, and like everything in my life, I feel like
Yeah.
I see it in a different way now. And
Right.
I wish I had had that knowledge about myself earlier in my life, because
Mm.
then whenever I was like in situations where I felt like I had to explain to someone about my own point of view or my own perspective, or like why I was upset by something that they did, like I just
Mm.
didn't really like know how to explain how I felt.
Right.
But now that I feel like I know myself a lot better, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm a lot better at communicating with other people as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's really validating.
Exactly. And I think it's like the another problem with school as well, because I feel like when we're at school, we're expected to all be the same. And so like we don't really get to understand our own individuality and our own strengths and weaknesses. But actually like the only way we can really like live our best life is by being authentic to who we are, and like living in a way that is in alignment with who we authentically are, which we're not really encouraged to do at school. So I think that's why we're not really able to get to know ourselves
Mm.
unless we actively try to do so, because we're kind of taught to suppress our individuality and our authenticity
Mm.
when we're in
Yeah,
the education system. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so what's your next point?
Yeah, I think it's my next and my final point, I think. So my final one is that be the best version of yourself to those you love. This is my final point and just a little heavier, but I think it's really important, maybe the most important. So what I wanted to say is that you are gonna lose people you love sometime in your life. It's inevitable, and when it happens, you are gonna be unprepared. I lost my dad to cancer when I was 27, and one day he was there, and the next day he wasn't. I never imagined I'd lose him so young, and not long after that, I lost my mentor to suicide, and it really made me rethink everything, like how I spend my time, how I treated the people I cared about. So sometime in your life maybe you've already gone through this, because that kind of thing happens earlier to some people, sometimes even in your 20s as well, or even earlier than that. But you're going to see people you care about leave this world. Some, they will just go in sudden accidents. Some will just make heartbreaking choices, and other people, they might just have illnesses like cancer and lose that fight, and you're gonna just have all the regrets and grief that you never really saw coming or you never really expected before. So when that kind of thing happens in your life, I'm 100% sure that you're gonna regret every single thing that you didn't do with that person. And think about the time you could have spent with them, how you should have called them more often, told them you loved them, or you're gonna just regret not giving them the second chance when you're mad at them, or you're gonna just regret about the calls you didn't make to them or the times you didn't reach out, just literally about everything, and you're gonna regret not being the best version of yourself around them. Because looking back, I always think like, why was I so angry at my father, at my friends, or over something that's really dumb, over something that's really trivial? Like, why did I waste my time just arguing with them? Like, why didn't I just let that little argument just go? Like, it just feels really small when you look back on it later, but in that moment you don't really see it that way. The thing is, most people already know this on some level. Like, we hear this all the time, like, love your people that you care about, life is too short, and that kind of thing. But until you actually lose someone you love, you don't really get it. Like, you have no idea how painful it is until that happens to you, until you understand how hard it is to actually never be able to see or touch someone that you love again. So yeah, what I wanted to say is that just be the best version of yourself to the people you care about, to the people that you love the most. Starting like right now, like, ask yourself like, what kind of person I want to be in their life. Like, do I want to be the kind of person that shows up with like compassion? Do I want to be a kind person, or do I want to be someone who's really loving, who's caring, who's compassionate? Just be that person today to the people that you love. Not tomorrow, not next week. Just do it today and be that person today, not after you've figured everything out, not after you've finished your work, not after you've done everything. Just start being that person today, because tomorrow is not gonna be promised. Just be the best version of yourself to the people you love whenever you can, starting right now. I think, yeah, that was my last point.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that and
Yeah.
sharing such a personal and heartfelt story as well.
Yeah, I think we both bonded over the same, not same, similar experiences that we had in the past, right?
Yeah.
And we both know what it is like to have that kind of experience. And I'm sure that some people listening out there also do. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's important to have this kind of reminder.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about your last and final lesson that you've learned in your 20s?
Yeah, so mine is a bit lighter than this, but it's to learn how to manage stress.
Which is really important.
Yeah, and just generally how to like look after your physical and mental health.
Right.
And it's just so crazy because I mean it took me quite a long time to even really like understand how to look after my body and even to understand the link between physical health and mental health.
Mm,
So basically, when I was 21, I was
mm,
diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which is an autoimmune disease.
mm,
And, like nowadays, so many young people, and especially women, are diagnosed with these chronic physical illnesses. And it really affects your life in a bad way. When you're not physically healthy, it's kind of impossible to really live your life in a
mm,
positive way or to like live your life to the fullest. But yeah, I didn't really understand for such a long time about how much my mental health really affected my physical health,
mm,
and especially in terms of like how to manage stress. And I just listened to so many hours of podcast episodes where people talked about all this stuff, and
Mm.
I read so many books, and yeah, I just spent so much time learning about how to look after my body and manage my stress and everything. And
Mm.
yeah, I really wish that I had known those things earlier, or that I had been
Yeah.
taught those things at school, maybe.
Mm.
Because I feel like we're never really taught how to slow down and look after ourselves, you know?
Not really.
Yeah, so I think we should do another like episode about this where we go into
Yeah,
it in more
definitely.
depth.
Yeah, yeah.
But if anyone is listening and they're kind of curious about what I did, one podcast that really helped me a lot is Dr. Chatterjee's
Mm.
podcast called Feel Better, Live More. Yeah, and he just really opened my eyes because I always thought that I hadn't really struggled with my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really like thought about listening to advice about mental health because I felt like it wasn't something that I had a problem with, and I was always thinking like, oh, it's my physical health that
Yeah.
I have all these problems with. But then I realized like, oh my god, but actually I knew that being stressed was bad for my physical health,
Mm-hmm.
but it was when I like realized the link between, oh, I need to look after my mental health and then my physical health will take care of itself. That was when
Mm.
I really made the breakthrough, and then I started like listening to
Yeah.
all these episodes on Dr. Chatterjee's podcast because he really talks about the role of stress in
Yeah.
disease and like
Mm-hmm.
the way our
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle
Yeah.
impacts our physical health and everything. Yeah. So
Mm.
that's something I wish I'd known. And it's something that I feel like our doctors and our medical healthcare system doesn't really teach us either.
Yeah, so true. Thank you for the advice.
Yeah, so thank you so much for the episode today.
Yeah, it was such a nice conversation.
Yeah, it's been so fun. Yeah, we didn't really
Yeah.
prepare for it at all. So
Yeah, it was really impromptu, but we really enjoyed it. Yeah, I really like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Thank you everyone for listening. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you everyone and see you in our next episode. Thank you so much for listening to our latest episode, and if you like that, please share with a friend.
We'd also really appreciate if you could rate and review our podcast. And please get in touch if you have any feedback.
We'll be back again with another episode next week.